Okay, continuing our test review, we are next going to look at solving by completing the square. So if you remember back in our notes is where we had the x squared term. Remember we took our little x squared and we had our bx and we divided these up and turned them into one big square that was missing a little corner. And we had to find this so that we could complete the square. That's exactly what we're going to do here. If you remember, thinking back, we need the constant to be on the other side. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to move it over. And next I will have x squared minus 18x. I'm going to leave a space here for where I complete my square, equals negative 65. Now, remember we talked about what this area was, and we started by saying, well, that is the b divided by 2. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the b and I'm going to divide it by 2. So that would be negative 18 divided by 2. Well, that would be negative 9, right? So that would be the b here, and I'm going to need to move it up here by, I want the area, so I'm going to have to square it. So negative 9 squared is 81, so I'm going to add 81. What I do to one side of an equation, I must do to the other. Now this will turn into x minus 9 squared equals, well, 81 minus 65 is, 16. So again, if I think about this trinomial, I was looking for two numbers that multiply to positive 81 and add to negative 9. That would be negative 9. So this would be like saying x minus 9 times x minus 9. Now, because I have one factor raised to the power of 2, I'm going to undo this with a square root. So now I have x minus 9 equals, we took the square root, so it's going to be both the positive and the negative 4. I'm going to add the 9 to both sides. And so now I have x equals, think about this, I have x equals 9 plus 4, and I also have x equals 9 minus 4. So using that information, I can say that my solution set is, well, 9 plus 4 is 13, and 9 minus 4 is 5. So I can say, well, this is going to be 5 and 13. All right, let's take a look at the next one. I have x squared plus 16x plus 58 equals 3. Okay, I'm going to move the 58 over, and I'm going to have x squared plus 16x, remember I'm going to leave that space open, equals negative 55. I want this divided by 2, so 16 divided by 2 is 8. And I need to square it to move it up here. 8 squared is 64. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So when I rewrite this, the factored form is going to be x plus 8 squared equals, well, negative 55 and 64 is 9. We'll take the square root of both sides. So x plus 8 equals plus or minus 3. And when I subtract the 8 over, that's going to give me x equals negative 8 plus 3, as well as x equals negative 8 minus 3. So if I was to name my solution set, I could say, well, negative 8 and negative 3 make negative 11, and negative 8 and positive 3 make negative 5. All right, we got one more here. I've got 2x squared plus 9x equals x minus 14. Well, I need to put the x over here, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract this x back over here, because I want the x's on one side and the constant on the other. So I have 2x squared plus 8x equals negative 14. Now the other thing we need to notice is it has a 2 in front, that leading coefficient. We do not need a leading coefficient, so I'm going to divide by that leading coefficient to everybody in the problem. So now I have x squared plus 4x equals -7. And then we just follow what we've done before. So what is 4 divided by 2? Well, that's 2, right? So when I move it up here, I need to square it. That's going to be plus 4. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I end up with x plus 2 squared equals -3. I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I notice immediately I've got the square root of a negative. Square root of a negative means I have no real solution. So I would say, well, this is x equals, and I could say it's a null set, or I might just write the words no solution, because it is not a real solution. I cannot do that. And again, that's because I can't find a number that will multiply to make a negative if I multiply it by itself. So there is a recap of solve by completing the square.